So welcome, welcome, welcome. We are incredibly happy and privileged to have you here. I think, you know, our amazing team of AEs are absolutely the backbone of the journal. I think we have probably the most diverse and representative editorial team of any major IS journal. It's an absolute privilege. And you know, some of you have been with us for a while, some people have just joined, but you know, congratulations on getting to this point in your career where you're able to do some leadership in the discipline. It's a great privilege and a great opportunity. So I've just got some background slides about CAIS as a journal and its mission, and then David is going to talk us through in quite a lot of detail the actual process of handling a paper. So CAIS was started in 1999 as an electronic journal. It was started at the same time as JAIS. They were started together by AIS as occupying two different niches in the community. So the goal of CAIS was to foster a free flow of ideas, to emphasise originality, importance and sort of cogency of ideas, and also to be a vehicle for some of those other aspects of scholarly life that might not necessarily have a clear venue in other journals. So things like case studies, survey articles, tutorials, debates and commentaries, and other materials of general interest to the community. So CAIS is founded on 4 key values. A broad purview. So this is the idea that CAIS will publish papers that may not fit exactly in traditional journals, so they may not follow the sort of usual script, if you like, but they may be of strong interest to the community. CAIS is a great destination for that sort of paper. It's founded on an inclusive mindset, so the idea is not to exclude topics or paper styles or genres as being outside the scope, unless they really are sort of way off in left field. So we aim for a fairly inclusive view of what is IS, what is IS research, and what is of interest to the IS community, and recognising that this can be fairly dynamic and change over time. We aim for rapid turnaround, which means we don't encourage multiple review rounds. This is a topic that we'll come back to talk about more a bit later on in the presentation. And I think very importantly for constructive and developmental reviewing. And again, this is an area where we absolutely depend on our community of AEs and reviewers. I just grabbed a couple of quotes. One is from the website, and I really liked it, where CAIS aims to be a rigour gatekeeper, not an ideology gatekeeper. So we want rigorous research, but not necessarily research that conforms to any particular preconception. We've been communicating with our new advisory board members, and a bit more about them later too. And so Shirley Gregor has joined our advisory board, and in the correspondence we had with her, she wrote at one point saying, when I think of CAIS, I think interesting. I just love it, and I think it's a very appropriate observation from Shirley, and I was very happy that she saw CAIS in that way. So we welcome a number of types of papers. So we welcome, you might say, regular research papers that make either empirical or theoretical questions. So those are similar to the things that might be submitted to any other journal. But we also welcome tutorials on novel technologies and methodologies and state-of-the-art concepts. Certainly for myself, I've been a big consumer in the past of CAIS tutorials, and I found them exceedingly valuable. We publish commentaries, opinions and debates. We have a very large and vibrant education section, and this is part of the unique contribution of CAIS is to really give some voice to the discourse about education and pedagogy in information systems. And we also publish panel and workshop reports from leading IS conferences. Of great importance for you as AEs, we have two types of review. So we have the regular peer review where we will assign paper to an AE. We'll see this whole process shortly with David. So you will get it, you will select a couple of reviewers, and they'll provide their reviews, you'll synthesize it, make a recommendation, and so on. You're probably already familiar with the fact that CAIS is single blind, so the reviewers' names are not known, but the authors' names are known, and also you have the option at the public point of publication of being acknowledged as the AE that handled the paper as well. So in some cases, with your permission, your name may be published as well. Then we also offer editorial reviews. So in this case, the paper goes just to one AE. So basically, you as the AE, you are the only reviewer, the only person assessing and making a recommendation. It can seem like quite a big responsibility. We try and reserve that for papers where the content is perhaps not particularly controversial. It may be like a tutorial or a panel report. So the main thing in that case the AE would be checking for is just, is it well written? Does it have good flow? Is it appropriate and well structured? But it does sometimes happen that authors will request an editorial review, just because they've requested it, we're not absolutely obliged to agree. I sometimes think that some authors at least think that an editorial review might be kind of a little bit faster, a little bit easier, or something like that. But anyway, so that being the case, if you are requested to carry out an editorial review, you have a number of options if you feel that you would like to seek some further input, because it can be quite a big responsibility to be the only person engaging with the paper and making a recommendation. So you can reach out to some of the advisory board members if you would like to, particularly people who may have strong expertise in the area. You can reach out to Dennis or myself. And in some cases, you may still wish to reach out to a colleague, as a kind of second opinion. But in that situation, they're not a reviewer as such. They won't be writing a review for the author. They will be simply offering their confidential opinion to you. And so still your report is the only report that the authors get. We're also considering, and this seems to some people maybe a little bit scary until we think that we're partway down the track anyway with the single blind and the fact that in many cases the AE's names are published, but we're looking at the possibility of this will be optional, nobody will be required to do it, but open identity review, drawing on open science principles, so where the reviewer's name would also be included along with the AE's name, so it becomes an open identity process. We often get a certain amount of nervousness at the suggestion. It is very much just an idea that we're considering at the moment. We have managed to recruit an AE with a great deal of knowledge and experience in the open science community. And again, we just like to kind of reassure you that nobody would be required to do this, that we will have processes around in the similar way that we offer our other types of reviews, where they will be requested and agreed on, and in no way would anybody be obliged to disclose their identity if they did not feel comfortable with it. So it's kind of watch this space. We've got discussions going on in this area. The journal has some departments. So we have now the ones that I've just grayed ones that we're revising a little bit how they work, not whether we will continue to take those kind of papers, but just how we manage them. So we used to have a debate editor and a sort of a debate department. So the debate editor would sort of seek interesting or controversial areas and seek contributions. Where I think we're moving away from that to a situation where any AEs or potentially even guest editors could propose a debate. And we also would like to move away from a dependence on a large number of invited articles. So perhaps maybe have one article that sort of framed the discussion and then seek contributions. So we're looking to restructure that a little bit. We have a design science department that has got some editors. It seems to be functioning extremely well. We have no plans to make any particular changes there. History and philosophy, although it's an important area, it's been fairly soft in terms of the contributions that it attracts. So we're not sure whether we will continue with that as a department or just include it in the range of topics that can be included for general submissions. Education, I touched on. It's a very large part of CAIS and a large number of the volumes of papers that we handle. Again, there are some very, very dedicated and hardworking people in that department, and it seems to be going well. We have no plans to make any particular changes at the moment, although having said that, some of the AEs there work extraordinarily hard. I think one person I looked at had handled 10 or 12 manuscripts already this year, which is just incredible. So what we're asking at these sessions is, if you happen to have any colleagues who are great on IS education, we would love to hear from them. So we would absolutely welcome nominations or expressions of interest for additional AEs in the education space. Panel reports, I mentioned that again, that possibly does not need to be a department, although it will be a type of paper, because panel reports have a separate structure to other types of papers. Digital health is a work in progress. It will be launched very soon as a new department, and when it is, we will obviously make announcements on all our channels and on the website. It's a rapidly growing area, and we felt at CAIS that it was one we wanted to be part of. A few numbers now. We've had a number of questions about these numbers as we offered these sessions, and I guess I should say at the beginning that some of them may be a little bit flaky. I pulled them straight off the website, and we're not actually entirely sure, because we only got the figures and not the process by which they were derived. So I'm not completely sure exactly where they all came from. So please consider them just as very indicative. There's just a couple of interesting things I wanted to pick up about them, rather than sort of getting hung up on any of the exact details, which may or may not be super accurate or current. So the first thing is just looking at the turnaround time. So that is part of the CAIS value proposition, is a reasonably quick turnaround time. The average time, at least at the time these figures were derived, was 40 days. We have been having a few issues with cycle time, just with the transition, and a few papers that have got sort of stuck at various points for longer than we feel comfortable with. So a major effort that we're having at the moment is to get those clear and to get back into a regular rhythm of a reasonably speedy turnaround. And then also the number of review rounds to final decisions too. Let's just unpack this a little bit. So the decisions you can make, obviously, accept minor revision, accept major revision, and reject. Now, what we particularly want to discourage is something being accepted with major revisions, and then when it comes back, there are still significant problems. So there's a number of possible things that can happen at this stage. So if it seems that there is really not a clear path to publication in the second revision, you may reject at that point. Although what we've also been seeing is that sometimes there's a really committed team really supporting the authors, and so sometimes we will get something back second round and it's still got problems, but the AE is writing to us saying, you know, the reviewers have said they're happy to stick with this paper, we all see something in it, we'd like to see it published, you know, and basically, can we do another cycle? Well, of course, nobody wants to deter, you know, that kind of commitment and support. I mean, it's fantastic and heartwarming, and it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the authors. So if you really want to stick with a paper, you are absolutely not required to reject it. If it isn't quite ready after 2 rounds, you may continue, of course. But you should not feel obliged to. You know, our policy and our general guidelines are quite clear, and so if it's come back for a second time, you don't see a clear pathway to publication. At that point, you may reject if it seems appropriate. Just to highlight a couple of points from the acceptance rates. Yeah, so some of these we thought might be a little bit flaky. Education seems very, very low. I think that is not representative. It may have been a particular snapshot when the figures were taken. But the interesting thing is that the regular research articles, you can see that the acceptance rates are actually relatively low, probably quite comparable to some of the better ranked journals, but the panel reports and particularly debate submissions, often with solicited papers, have very, very high acceptance rates, and so that kind of evens out to perhaps a higher acceptance rate than a number of IS journals, and that may be having an impact on the journal ranking. So we're not necessarily proposing to make any tremendous changes there, except as I mentioned, I think we want to move away from solicited papers and you know, and in the debate context, you know, subject the papers to the normal level of reviewing that other types of papers could expect, and so that might affect that debate figure a little bit. I guess we've also been really emphasising when we've been having these sessions that figures are a very blunt instrument, that we in no way are going to work to a certain percentage or anything like that. You know, that is absolutely not our intention. So they're for your interest. As I said, particularly I wanted to kind of highlight the fact that there do seem to have been considerable historical differences between some of the departments, but you know, it's very much on the quality of the papers, not on, you know, any kind of sort of, you know, metrics driven acceptance rate. So just a couple of things that we've been working on and thinking about that we wanted to tell our AEs about. So we have, as you know, refreshed the editorial board. We're exceedingly excited about our new team of AEs. There are some awesome, a whole lot of really awesome people, and we're also extremely excited about the number of countries that we've been successful in recruiting AEs from, and just the general representative and diversity of our AE community is amazing. we've refreshed the advisory board. So CAIS has always had an advisory board. You can probably see it sort of on the website, and there was a bunch of names. And when we got into this, we found that it seemed to be kind of mostly a kind of honorary kind of thing, and that, you know, some of the people barely seemed to know that they were on the advisory board or whatever. And so we communicated with the advisory board, and a large majority of them were very happy to move to an emeritus role. And so then we set out to recruit a new advisory board. So you can look at the profiles on the website. We had an amazing response. We've got some fabulous senior scholars. All of them have agreed to take on an active role, and they are there as a resource for us and for you. So, you know, their profiles are available. If you feel that you would like to reach out to one of them for support in anything you're doing, please feel free to do that. They are there to build the capability of the journal community overall. So these are just some of our current goals. So we have talked quite a bit already about diversity and inclusiveness. We're actively trying to reach out to some underserved communities, so some of the EIC communities in less developed countries that have perhaps not had very much of a voice until recently. We are very keen to nurture new and emerging research topics. So the way I put this is what that means is that if you're at a conference, you go to a really interesting presentation, it's really thought-provoking, you know, something that you hadn't really considered before. You go up and you shake the author's hand at the end of their presentation, say how much you enjoyed it, and then you say, and you know, I'm an AE at CAIS, and we'd really love to receive a developed version of this paper. So we really would encourage you all to be advocates for the journal, to reach out, and particularly to encourage submissions of research that you think is, you know, fits the mission of the journal and is a new or emerging topic. By all means, please encourage and support authors to submit their work. We're keen to support the Millennium Development Goals. We talked a little bit about moving towards some support for open science goals. We are very much committed to creating career development opportunities for our AEs and for our authors. So if you can see areas in which you would like to contribute that will give you some career growth, by all means, please discuss with us. And finally, I added this just recently. Please really encourage your authors to take up the video option. It's extremely easy. I had to do it just recently for the AMSIS conference that I attended virtually. It's very, very easy to use the AIS video upload. You know, our experience has been that it has a much bigger reach and gets a much greater audience than you know, online digital text, if you like. And so it's great for authors. It very much increases their profile. And also, David recently has put up a CAIS YouTube channel, which we now have, and so we want to make use of that as well. But because it's public facing, we'll do a little bit of quality assurance on it, so we won't just slam any video that any author uploads onto the YouTube channel. You know, we will quality assure them. But obviously anything that's in the public domain like that has a very big reach. It's the sort of thing that, you know, many universities are very keen to encourage this kind of wider audience for research work. So we think it has a lot of benefit for authors as well as a lot of benefit for the journal. So we're asking you to be advocates for this, to support and encourage your authors to submit video content as well as their completed manuscripts. And that is the end of my part of the presentation.